Hypers and Hypettes, let's talk about it. Another tutorial, but let's start it off with something that's very important. Map awareness. Actually, you know what? It's probably going to be a different. I mean, the concept in general, right, though, it's not really that difficult, but if you... You know what, screw it, let's do a tutorial. Yo-ho-ho, as per request, guys, I am doing a item and skill guide for Miss Yuna. She is an interesting one, that's for gosh darn sure. She is considered a specialist, and we're going to get into detail as to how you build her and what her skills actually do. As we always do. You'll have to forgive the beginning of this video, that was just a little frustration leaking out. I do plan on actually doing a guide about map awareness and things of that nature. And in all honesty, we probably could use a full video guide on it, but I'm not going to do a full video on just map awareness. Anywho, getting into this, let's look at her standard attack. If you have not caught on, unless you are shooting something, the standard attack is usually 3 hits. But hers, again, just like Tega, has 2 hits at the end of it. So it's 3 strikes, but it's 2 hits. Alright, and let's look at her passive. Yuna's attacks do 4% of max health as additional fixed damage and reduce move speed by 15% for 2 seconds. Can occur once every 10 seconds. So this is what that means. My first hit's going to do it. And then you see that little orb down there at the bottom that's spinning around her right here. This means that this means it can't happen again. Once this orb is finished and it ticks out, it can happen again. So you see those 2 ticks of damage and then the slow. So the orb goes around again. And then here we go. Boom, it can happen again. So that's something to take note of, and you really got to pay attention to when you can do that because it optimizes your damage. It really does. So it can proc off of her skills too. So there is that. And that definitely optimizes her damage because she does additional damage based on max health with the damage from her skills. It's pretty ridiculous. Anyway, that was her A. And her A is double slash. Yuna cuts with both of her plasma rings doing, your applicable damage twice. So it's a 2-hit. It's a 2-hit. But it's not a 2-hit in animation, meaning that it just swings once, but it swings them both at the same time. A 2-hit in animation would be like her 3rd strike right here. That's a 2-hit in animation. Alright, now her Q. Leap Spiral. Kind of like Spiral Out, but not at all at the same time. Anywho, Yuna spins forward, doing 29, your applicable damage, to up to 5 times to enemies in her path, and stunning them for 0.8 seconds. It's a very small stun, but trust me, it works. She lands with a final flourish that does an additional set of damage to the enemies within 250 units, which is kind of big, and stuns them for 1 second. So as she's going through people, they get stunned. But also, when she lands, they will get stunned. But take note that all of this does damage. It's not just flare for the sake of the skill. It all does damage. And again, the passive does proc off of it. Now her W. Okay. Orbital Burn. Yuna fills the air around her with plasma rings, doing, your applicable damage based on your item build to all enemies within 400 units up to 6 times. Alright. Now, 400 units sounds like a lot, but with this you'll notice that, that's pretty wide, but it doesn't feel like it when you're in game. Because you're going to want to maximize it. So if they're just at the very edge of it, they may not take as much damage as you're wanting them to. But if you can get in on them, then they're going to do the most damage. So a good way to actually start this before I even go into her E and her R would be like to slide in on them and then, or if you can land it properly, to slide on top of them and then do it. But get it where you can. Because it does do a lot of damage, and when you put a little bit of life steal on her, it procs off every single one of those hits. And you just found out that her Q and her W do multiple hits. So just let that be known. Every single one of those hits grants you life steal back. So there's a heads up for that. And that's key. Now I don't build a lot of life steal on her because I don't need to. With that happening, I really don't need to. Anyway. So her E, let's look at that. Instantly restores 50% of max health and increases defense by 19 for 6 seconds. So it is an instant heal, and it increases your defense as well. This helps with going through the jungle camps, or if you're in the middle of a fight and it looks like you're about to die, because it does have a pretty decent cooldown. If you're about to die, you want to hold that until your health is low, but don't hold it to the point where like you just get bursted down. When your health's getting low and you're like, oh crap, I don't have a healer or my healer's dead, press that E button and then you're back to good to go, and you're gonna be like, blam, I'm healed. You saw it, 310. Anyway, and then her R. So you have 3 charges on this. Think of it like Captain Red's passive or Taegeuk's passive with the Void. You have charges on this, and those have their own like cooldown. Okay, so you have max charges of 3 core charges, and you get 1 core per 25 seconds. So 75 seconds is what it takes to get all of your core charges back if you use none of them. That's 1 minute and 15 seconds. Yuna flings supercharged plasma rings forward, doing 268, whatever your applicable damage is, and it consumes 1 plasma core. The cooldown cannot be reduced, and charge time for plasma core can be reduced. Ignores half of damage dispersion. Alright? So let's see what that looks like. So here's her throwing the rings. Now, notice there is a wind up before she does it. It's not instant. But look at that range. She is off screen and still getting hit. Okay? And there is a small explosion at the tail end of it. Just kind of hard to show you because it goes off screen. But there you have it. So that's just the way her skills look. Now let's talk about what you can do with them. As I've already shown you, you can slide on in there, hit them with that. Typically, I save my R, my ultimate, for when they're trying to get away, because it cuts through everybody. So you can definitely line up a good set of kills, like you get doubles, triples, so like squad wipes if you time it right. But remember, it's not instant. She does do that wind up, and that will throw you off the first few times you try to do it, because you're going to press R and think, okay, I'm throwing it out right now. No, there is a small delay before she actually tosses her freaking rings of death, okay? There is a small delay. Now with her A, it's just really more so to amplify her combo damage. Now you can do any of the skills in conjecture with her combo, so it doesn't really matter what you choose. But just know that if you burn like your stun, for example, your Q, it's down until that crap comes back up. And that might sound like common sense, but let me tell you, common sense is not too common. And you may forget in the heat of the moment as well. Also, with the Q, you go in whatever direction you are currently holding once pressed. So if I press left and hold Q, I go in that direction. If I press right and hold Q, I go in that direction. However, if you press nothing, you will spin in place, which actually is helpful. If you're fighting someone by yourself and y'all are just going, and you're like, oh crap, they're gonna get me unless I will blam! You spun on them. They got stunned by your dazzling pirouette of death. So there you go. Her skill set is not really too difficult to learn. What it is, in all honesty, from my experience, because I did a lot of trial and error, a lot of horrible failures, and a lot of really great success, is knowing not necessarily just when to use her skills, but also what items benefit her the most. This is as close to glass cannon as you will ever see me build a hyper, and the only reason is because she has a self-sustaining heal. That's the only reason. But let's look at this. So for her boots, I give her Slaughterer's Greaves because I like to get some of that lifesteal early on. And you know me, I put 1 point into that, so when we go contest that orb up top, I can lifesteal off some bajangles. So that's that. Now her only unique item that I have been using currently, I may add more, but I was using one of the other ones and it did not work for me at all. Again, I can't stress this enough, this is how I build her, how I play her, and this is what works for me. Play her how she works for you, just use this as a stepping stone, because this may not work for you. Anyway, so Impervium Rings. You get attack and crit rate and then cooldown reduction. The cooldown reduction is actually really important with a lot of her skills because they do have high cooldowns, because they do a lot of freaking damage. And her heal has a high cooldown too. It's like 30 seconds. So what it does though, it enhances Orbital Burn, cooldown minus 2 seconds, and damage plus 15. So that's this little puppy right here, in case you've forgotten. Cooldown minus 2 seconds and damage plus freaking 15. Damage on each one of those freaking hits. 6 hits. Come on. That's beautiful. Anyway, So I also put Dragon's Bane on here because I like to do a lot of crits with her. I tried to do a build that was more defense penetration lifesteal-ish. No, that didn't work out. Not even a little bit. Not at all. It was horrible. For me anyway. I mean, stress that. But Dragon's Bane is attack and crit rate and increases critical damage by an additional 20%. So overall, you're getting 35% crit rate here. Okay, it's 35%. I also have Plasma Cutter on here because there are situations early in the game where you try to get, and even if it's later in the game, there are some tanky people in this game where you try to secure the kill, but they just kind of walk away from you, even if you have a lot of damage. This kind of helps secure that, or dwindles them down enough for your striker to pick them off from the distance. Say you got a good turner, he hits that Q and just snipes them, you know, or a good Celine, or just any kind of striker, or anybody that's on the other end, like y'all are closing in, doing a little Genki Schwank Stank on them, you know, this helps. It is defense penetration as well, so that's also really good. Defense penetration is good to have in your build somewhere, so when you do go up against the tankier people, you're not just kind of like poking at them like, oh man, why aren't my attacks doing anything? You know, gosh darn why. Alright. But what this does, in case you haven't read it yet, I'll tell you, is attack and defense penetration plus max mana and attack. And while attacking, inflicts 61 additional damage per second for 3 seconds. And I'll max this out to show it to you. Now, Breath of Fire. This is like one of the items that's is useful on almost every single hyper I've come to find out. Almost. There are hypers where you just wouldn't build this. But it's useful on so many aggressive hypers. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so it's attack and max health, which goes back to the passive, and crit rate again, plus move speed plus 5%. After using a skill, your next regular attack within 5 seconds of said skill that was just used does an additional 100% of attack damage. Cooldown is 3 seconds, so it happens frequently. Then, of course, my Assassin's Cathar. Defense penetration plus 5 plus the crit rate. So this is defense penetration and crit rate. That's freaking fabulous. But when crit rate is at least 60%, it increases my attack by 35. So that's just like boom, bang, doom. You know, that's a whole bunch of stuff working together in my build that just has no reason to work together. It shouldn't be doing that good, but it's doing it. And I'm going to make it work, and we're going to make it work, and we're going to do the deeps to these people. We're going to make them cry a little bit, but not too much because we do want a player base. Keep that in mind. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to max this item out right here, so I can show you what the burn looks like in case you have not seen this in game. It's actually a bleed, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so that's what it looks like. There's actually an animation to it so you know when it happens, and that's the actual bleed. You see the damage proccing there. Now, again, it inflicts 61 additional damage per second for 3 seconds. So it does go based, it doesn't ignore their defenses, so make sure you're aware of that. It's not going to automatically inflict 61 if they have through all their defense. So once you start building your own items, then it will. Now let's check out this Orbital Burn real quick with its enhanced state. That is the damage it does right there. Okay. Now if we go to Breath of Fire, I want it to be known, I want to show you this. It will proc off of your self heal. It will. So if you heal yourself and then bam, you got it. So you could be in the middle of a fight, you can be getting jammed up on and you're like bam, boom. You healed yourself and then you proc Breath of Fire, you laid down more damage, and that opens up another gateway or pathway for you to do more damage with your other skills. It's pretty intense, as they say. Anyway guys, I kind of made this a little bit longer than I wanted to. My apologies, especially with the crazy intro I did, but I look forward to doing more of these videos for you. I'm not sure if I'm going to stream tonight, really unsure, going to do some things with the family. But get a good, wait, hold on. I'm sorry, I did that backwards. Have a great morning, day, noon, or night. Get a good yo-ho-ho in there somewhere. And get a good cup of coffee, tea, milk, water, whatever it is you're drinking to make your day go by just a little bit better. I'll see you guys in the next Hyper video, likely next Thursday, unless I port over some live streams. Other than that, thank you guys for stopping by. Monolith Brook Shadow, signing out.